you get a cleaner idea about what the market is gonna do next. So always keep this futures chart open. It will tell you a lot more about what you are doing. About price action and volume action. So what we are focused on is the volume action, right? There are about three elements, okay, which go into the makings of a chart. Price, the most important one. Supporting one is volume, and the second supporting one is time. Okay, and at different place, different days, different times of the session, and at different days of the week, each of these three play differently, right? So you know that between 2:30 and 3:30, because of the option plays and because of settlement pressure, because of this particular time, 2:30 to 3:30, the market works differently, right? And that point of time, the time becomes more important than price and even sometimes volume. But at certain times, let's say about 9:15 to 10:15, the volume component of the market is more important. A lot of traders are brought up into thinking that price is everything, and that concept is still there. Bhav Bhagwan Che, But Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. There are three Bhagwans. One is price, one is volume, and the third one is time. And if you can pay attention to these three, especially as a derivative trader, you will cut out a lot of mistakes, okay, which you make in derivative trading. The whole idea as retail traders is to eliminate rookie mistakes. Before you start making money, before you actually become profitable, you have to think about how you're going to be eliminating your stupid mistakes. You get a cleaner idea about what the market is going to do next. So always keep this futures chart open. It will tell you a lot more about what you are doing. About price action and volume action. So what we are focused on is the volume action, right? There are about three elements, okay, which go into the makings of a chart. Price, the most important one. Supporting one is volume, and the second supporting one is time. Okay, and at different place, different days, different times of the session, and at different days of the week, each of these three play differently, right? So you know that between 2:30 and 3:30, because of the option plays and because of settlement pressure, because of this particular time, 2:30 to 3:30, the market works differently, right? And that point of time, the time becomes more important than price and even sometimes volume. But at certain times, let's say about 9:15 to 10:15, the volume component of the market is more important. A lot of traders are brought up into thinking that price is everything, and that concept is still there. Bhav Bhagwan Che, But Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. Bhav is not the only Bhagwan. There are three Bhagwans. One is price, one is volume, and the third one is time. And if you can pay attention to these three, especially as a derivative trader, you will cut out a lot of mistakes, okay, which you make in derivative trading. The whole idea as retail traders is to eliminate rookie mistakes. Before you start making money, before you actually become profitable, you have to think about how you're going to be eliminating your stupid mistakes.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. A quick sound check. Am I audible? Great. Welcome back, guys. And let's start with the weekly report, and then we'll move on to what has happened today in both spot as well as futures, and then have a look at the order flow charts of today, and then look for what we can expect for the rest of the week. So we have the weekly report which is put up in Nifty spot. We can see the weekly profile of previous week was a neutral extreme one to the downside, and we had this closing statement that the weekly FA, the negated weekly FA of 24774 was a swing supply point, and we were expecting the target 180 target of 24137 for the week which ended on Friday on 9th of August. So what happened last week was we opened with a big gap down. This report was published before the market opened on Monday, and we opened with a big gap down. We hit this objective of 24137, and then we went on to form a big trend down profile, although it was more of a B-shaped one which indicates long liquidation, uh, though the range but the range was a big one, and Nifty spot had made new lows of 2823893, and this was very close to the extension handle. We had spoken about that extension handle, the monthly one from June, which was at 23887. We spoke about this last Monday also in the 5 p.m. session, and I had mentioned that will be the immediate support on the downside. If we break that, then we can look for the monthly VPOC of 23535 on the downside. But what we did last week was we held those lows of Monday, and again when we opened higher on Tuesday, we left a period selling tail, and again went on to form a long liquidation profile. So we had two big ranges on Monday and Tuesday, both with A period singles. Monday also was an A period single because of the gap down. We had an invisible selling tail, and Tuesday also we had the selling tail. And then we went on to get back into Monday's range and value, hitting this POC of 24012. Only thing which was supporting was this small responsive buying tail which we had on Monday, and which came at an important reference point of 23887. So once that was done, this was indicating that now the downside is over and we are coming back to phase 2 of an IPM. The IPM is initial price movement which started from the 1st of August, which was the start of a new month, and uh, this down move from 25075 to 23893 kind of finished that imbalance, and then we started to form this balance. You can see how on Wednesday and Thursday we remained inside the value of Tuesday's profile, and then formed this nice 3-day balance. So what we did on Friday was we made a move away from this balance. This is a 4-day balance, in fact a 3-day balance, because we moved away from this POC. 24012 was the POC of Monday, which we did not tag after the Tuesday's breakdown. So with that as the lower HUN, we can take this 3-day composite as a balance, and then from there we moved away on Friday. But what we did on Friday was form a very narrow range profile. So even though the buyers came into the picture, but they were not able to do much. They were not able to extend higher after the initial balance. So it was all set for an interesting session today, because what we had on the weekly profile was another balance with value completely lower, but the close was around the value area high. So our closing remark of the weekly report was the weekly profile is a well balanced normal one with an initiative selling tail from 244009 to 24696 due to the gap down, and has formed completely lower value. So this was the value area zone with a close near the value area high. So it will be interesting to watch how the auction shapes up, with the weekly VPOC of 24459 being the important upside reference, whereas on the downside 24284, which was the value area high of the 3-day composite, will be the important level. And along with the 24284, this prominent POC of 24229 was our lower side objective. So we had those hypos marked for today. You can see how we have the 24229 as our 3-day VPOC as the support on the downside, and on the upside we have the weekly VPOC of 24459. So what we did today in the spot was we opened, I'll split this chart of today. This is the weekly profile which is on chart right now. So what we did was we opened inside the previous range, but we made a probe to weekly POC. So on a weekly chart, especially on the spot, we give a lot of importance to the POC, because the spot chart does not have volume. So we look at the POCs and accordingly look at what references we need to mark out. So when we opened, the probe went down in the initial balance. We were looking for a test of this. And what happens that the POC gives us a cue of what will happen next in the auction. So when we left this singles at the POC, it was clear that the downside is being tested. So as long as this buying tail was holding, we were looking at a probe higher, and that's what we did. We made a range extension in the C, but the C side is something which we do not trust, so we wanted more confirmation and wanted the D to make higher highs, which it did. So we tested the objective on the upside was this VPOC in the August series. So you can see how the rejection came in at the lows at this POC, and we will also add to the information on the future chart. But on the spot chart, we need to go totally by the value and the POCs. So when you're getting a rejection at one POC, it is obvious that the market wants to move in the opposite direction. That's what happened in the morning. We went to single singles. So when you're leaving a single, it is showing us rejection. So when this got rejected, the auction then began to form a balance, a very narrow range balance. It started to coil, but the entry into this weekly value, you can see how the G period took support at the weekly value, and the weekly value was a well balanced one. So it was kind of holding, and as long as this was holding, we had a good chance of continuing this range extension to the upside in the afternoon, especially the K and L period. But because we were not able to take off this VPOC again, we then made a swipe lower in the L period. So when we give lot of importance to these halfbacks. So you can see this halfback is where the L took support, and we have formed a kind of a P-shaped profile at 24421, and we have closed inside this. So on the weekly, if we see, what we have done is we've kind of filled up this upper portion of the profile. The lower part looks to be a well balanced one, so we are just filling up this zone, and we have also tagged this objective of 24459. So if I switch this to the daily chart for in the coming sessions in spot. So this is the 3-day composite I was talking about, and this was the 24284 reference and VPOC of 24229. So here we can see both range and value wise we have formed an outside bar in Nifty spot. But what we have done in the process is we have taken the immediate reference for tomorrow, and then the close of today I think is around 24367. 24347 is today's spot close reference. In case we are able to, why is this the scene of crime? Because this was holding the upside, and as long as this was holding, we were looking for Nifty to probe higher, and this was also right near the value area high of previous session. So that is how market profile gives us the clues, and we will have to accordingly uh, identify the setups and see what the auction is trying to do or fail to do, because that will tell us what it can do next. So once we get above this 24380, then our objective would be this 24421 and then this EP rate tail on the upside. So once we get back above this weekly POC of 24459, then we are looking at 25500 as our next target on the upside. So these hypos will be mentioned in the updated report end of the day today. So you can have the reference there. Whereas on the downside, this pullback low of the ELP TPO would be the immediate reference. And then as you can see, we have left this initiative buying tail today. So this 24252 would be the lower support. In case we break into this, then we have a good chance of completing the 80% rule and going and tagging the 24139 on the downside. So that is how we have placed in the Nifty spot for tomorrow and also the Wednesday, because Wednesday will be the weekly settlement for both Nifty and Bank Nifty because of the Independence Day holiday. So we only have 2 more sessions for this week left. So let us see how this shapes up tomorrow. For now, we have tails at both ends, so it is kind of a uh, subdued close today. No, we cannot say whether the buyer or the seller is in an advantage, and we will definitely get more clarity on this for the next session. So buy on the buy side, we are below previous week's POC end value 24379. So not above value but above the POC. So 24379 is also the weekly value area high. So we will need to remain above that to be bullish. So let's see how this goes on spot. And before we move on to the future chart, let us have a look at the Bank Nifty spot. So Bank Nifty was weaker of the two. What we had was not just a big gap down, but also a 1,000 point range both on Monday and Tuesday. And we can see how both the days gave us some big A period selling tails. So we similar to Nifty, we formed overlapping value, but we had a nice 4-day composite in Bank Nifty. Nifty, it was the first day value was completely lower, and the next 3 days was on the upside, leaving that HVN at 24012. But in Bank Nifty, it was very clearly forming overlapping value for all the 4 days of the week. So what we did in Bank Nifty was take the 4-day composite, and then we saw Bank Nifty moving away from this 4-day composite with a gap up on Friday. But then, like in Nifty, it only left a normal day with tails at both sides. So we had to get more confirmation about what it wants to do, with the prominent POC of Friday being 50551. So in the Bank Nifty, we did mention it's a weekly profile is a normal one with completely lower value, This is the weekly value. And then we have an initiative selling tail from 57007 to 51189. And that will be the supply zone above the 5551 POC of Friday. And on the downside, we have support at 5420 to 386. And then we have a good chance of the bank nifty completing the 80% rule in the 4-day composite from 5240 to 50,098. So this is the weekly profile, and we can see how we have formed a nice value, which is why it was a very good candidate for the 80% rule to play out today. So what did we do in bank nifty? So we also had the hypos on the upside. You can see just like how we had the VPOC in Nifty on the upside, we have a similar VPOC on the upside at 5838. This was the 2-day VPOC from of 25th and 26th July. On the downside, we had this 4-day value area high of 5240 and this weekly and the August monthly developing POC of 50,098 as the downside levels. So let us see what happened in Bank Nifty. This is the weekly spot chart of Bank Nifty. And what we have done today is formed a double distribution trend day up. So Bank Nifty got back into this. So once it got back into this weekly value, it was a contender for a, at first the auction hitting the POC, the middle of that balance, and then the other end of the balance. So today what happened in Bank Nifty was we did probe lower, but we made a low of 5151, whereas the POC was 50,098. And then we left a small buying tail in the B period. So the this was also similar to getting rejected at an important reference, because the VPOC is not being tagged. That means the buyers are defending this zone. So, and when in the same value, that 80% rule got negated because it was no longer staying in this value, and we had left a responsive buying tail. This did come in the initial balance. So both these A and B are initiative tails, but the A period will definitely have more importance than the B. But when the C period went on to negate the A period, and what we did was we made multiple range extensions. And if you can see, this JTPO high was right at that hypo which was given of 5839. We made a high of 5830 today, and we call this J period as J for Joker, because just like how the C period acts, we don't trust the move which comes in the J period, because most of the days we have seen it giving us a uh, contra move, and then again the main trend takes over from the next TPO onwards. So even today we were very alert in the J period when it was making higher highs, and we are waiting for K to give that confirmation that the move is the more upside is expected. And I'll show you the daily chart in a bit, but on the weekly you can have a look at this HVN, this TPO HVN of 5856, where we have stalled today. So this will be our reference for tomorrow, and on the upside going forward for this week in Bank Nifty, we have closed lower today, lower in the sense below this POC of today. So we will first have to take off this POC, and then we have to take off that higher HVN level for to continue on the upside. I'll just switch on to the daily chart of Bank Nifty spot, where we can see that POC marked very clearly, and see how we have stalled right at that reference. And which is why it is very important to watch these market profile references and make use of them in trading. So you can see how this today VPOC of 5839 is just been held for now. And we have formed this double distribution profile. We have the POC at 5732, and that will be our opening reference for tomorrow. The close of Bank Nifty has been at 5577. So because this is a double distribution trend day, this seaside singles from 54122 to 5508 would be the support zone. As long as this zone is being defended, we can look for look for the auction to continue higher. but the first reference on the upside would be this 5732. On the downside, if this extension handle gets negated, then we are looking to get back into this value and complete that unfinished 80% rule, which is 50. On the spot for tomorrow, the immediate support would be this pullback low of the L period, and then the extension handle, and to hold the down move. If not, we do the 80% rule in this composite. So that is how we are placed in Bank Nifty. I'll have these hypos marked out in the report again, and we will see how this goes tomorrow. Let's start with the Nifty futures chart. So I have not put on today's chart, so that first let us discuss what happened on Friday and how we were placed before the day started today. So as you can see, we have a nice 3-day composite in Nifty futures also, and then we had this anchored VWAP at 24368. This anchored VWAP is from the swing high of 1st of August, from where we started the IPM. And from that point, the anchored VWAP has come down lower. And on Friday, although we broke above this VWAP, we formed a balanced profile. So this VWAP needed to show us change of polarity. That means this should have held on when at open today. And on the upside, we were looking to tag this 2 SG band of the anchored VWAP of the swing low we left on 5th of August. So we have this anchored KRLs. So we mark them out whenever we have a swing high and a swing low on the daily time frame. And according if it is a fresh entry, we look at the objectives, and the objectives of that move would be the 2 standard deviation. That would be one point where we would want to look for order flow confirmation for continuation or stalling. So that is how we mark these anchored VWAPs. So we have the two anchored VWAP. One is in red because this is the falling anchored VWAP for the used for the supply point. And on the green we can expect the buyers to come and hold this VWAP. So when we opened the market today, we were looking at this, and we were at 24403, and this was our first reference to the upside. We would have been bullish if we would have stayed above this POC at the open. And on the downside, this VWAP was our reference. Below 24390, we would have been uh, looking for downside. And on the downside, what would we look? We would look at the value of Friday, value area low. And then if we enter into this composite, our order flow would get triggered, and we would look for a tag of this POC and the value area low. So what happened today was we made a open below the VWAP. We did not get any bullish signal. I'll also come to the order flow chart, and we'll see what was seen in the order flow chart at open. And then we went on to probe lower, and you can see the B period low held right at this VPOC of 24268. And once we left that buying tail, it was very clear that the auction is headed higher. And what we went on to do was probe higher, and we saw that in the Bank Nifty spot chart, this VPOC was 24522, and overlapping value. We market was in a range and Nifty was not doing much. So this was one important reference, and we can see how we left a responsive selling tail right at that VPOC. Once that was done, the upside got PO lows when it gave way, and the VWAP broke late in the afternoon. It went on to test the B period singles, the buying tail. So that is what happened in Nifty futures. So what we have done, we have formed a 313 profile. What is a 313 profile? It's a balanced profile. It's a balanced profile where we have with tails at both ends. So we have a responsive selling tail at the top and the initiative buying tail at the bottom, VPOC level, and the upper part has taken resistance at another important VPOC level. So Nifty is now stuck between these two zone of singles and between these two VPOCs. So going forward, we will need to see some initiative activity happening at this lower VPOC for more downside. We need the order flow bars at 24552. So one of these VPOCs will give us the gate pass, and once we get that confirmation from order flow that it is happening on initiative volumes and activity, we can expect one trending move in that direction in the sessions to come. So this is how we are placed in Nifty futures. Coming to the order flow chart of Nifty, I will first show you the 30-minute order flow chart of today. So I'll just enlarge this and we'll go TPO wise so that, and once we do with the 30-minute order flow, we'll move on to the 3 minutes where we take the actual trades. The 30-minute order flow gives us the buyers and keeps us in sync for what the bigger time frame is looking at. So you can see how the ATPO was a nice IS bar on 30 minutes. The POC was right in the middle. It was a red bar, and we opened below previous days VWAP. So in market profile, we look at what we are doing compared to previous value. And VWAP is one very important part in the very clear that the buyers of Friday were not there. They're not defending. So it was up to the sellers to take this forward. And what was before that VPOC. And here the A period POC was a nice IS bar, but in the B period we can see this is now an RB. So it is very clear. And in the C period we POC was around the top, which was also around the POC of previous day. So which was telling us that you can expect more upside with this 24367 as the reference. And when we made higher highs in the D, it was very clear that the auction is headed for more upside. And we also got was 6,000 contracts green. So this POC was in the E period, tagged that VPOC which I showed of 24522. But then in the E period, we can use the 30-minute order flow chart so that we know what is happening on the bigger time frame. So once we got this RB in the B period, we were no longer bearish. And then when we got back above VWAP, we are looking at buy side signals in the order flow on the shorter time frame, on the 3 minutes. So till now, we have seen that Hello, sound check. Am I audible? I- Is the audio on, guys? Can you hear me? Great. Apologies. I don't know what happened and why we lost the voice in between. So I was showing you the order flow charts and how the order flow on 30 minutes showed us the change of character in the E period when we left an RS. So we went on to, after the RS, we went on to break the VWAP and test the morning RB. So what we did was we started with a probe down, we got RBs, and then we came back above VWAP, probed higher, found sellers and the buyers booking out, and then we made again a probe lower back down to the uh, place from where we started the up move. So let us now shift to the 3-minute order flow of morning and see how we could use the order flow to get these trades. So you can see how at the open we found this was more an RS bar because we are not able to get above that VWAP of Friday, which was a 24390. And once we got this IS at VWAP, it was very clear that this, with this as our reference, 24370, and 24370 also has another relevance because that was the anchored VWAP which we saw from the 1st of August. So when we are not able to get above that and hold above that, it is very clearly telling us that the supply is holding that level, at least for the time being. So our first trade for the day today was on the downside. Once we this 924 bar got over, and this was our reference, 24370 was our reference. Till the time we were holding this, we were looking for more downside. So you can see how even though the next bars did give some bounce above the VWAP, you can see how we are getting zeros on the buy side and we are not able to take off this RS level. So then what we did in the B period is, after the 8 TPO was done, we made lower lows and we went on to hit that 24269, almost hit that 24269 objective. So once we have these levels marked out very prominently when we are in the live markets, and we have this level marked out even before the market opens, so we definitely know this is our profit booking point. And when you get this kind of a bar at an objective, the 957 bar, which is a very neat clean RB bar, responsive buying pattern, so you can see sell side zeros, POC shifted to the down, and after this break of evap, this is the first RB bar which we have got. So this is very clearly telling us that please come out of shorts and book out the puts. And this RB was followed by an IB. So just like how we saw RS plus IS in the opening bars, we got an RB plus IB in this level, which was a very important level. So this definitely was giving us more confirmation. In fact, if you are an aggressive trader, with this as your reference, you can go for a test of VWAP because this is come at an important zone. So definitely the auction will go on to test VWAP, and what happens at VWAP will then decide what will happen next in the day. So responsive buying bar is when the auction is moving lower, the POC shifts down and the auction closes above the POC. That is called a responsive buying bar, and it comes in a falling market. When the market is going down, we are looking at IS. For example, when from the time we broke below VWAP, the POC was in the middle most of the bars, and this 954 bar, it did go to the bottom, but then we had a follow through. The close was around the lows, and this bar the close was well below the RB bar. And a good RB bar is where the POC does not get tagged in the next incoming bar. So this is what happened. This POC of 24279 held on. We were not able to break below this, and we got this IB. So even if you're a conservative trader, you will hold on. You will definitely not remain short. You will look for an IB at VWAP to go long. And what we did here, if you are even if you're a conservative trader, this 1015 bar Although this is a C side, this is an IB bar coming right at the VWAP, and this is coming on good volumes. One point I would like to make was is you need to know which of the IB and the IS signals are good quality ones. So, and how do we identify them? The POC needs to be in the middle. The volumes need to be on the higher range. You don't trade a IB on 500 contracts for a bigger move because you know the volumes are not there. So that definitely there is no initiative activity in that bar. So we look at volumes of more than 2000, 2500 contracts on a 3-minute order flow chart for an IB or an IS to remain relevant. Anything below that is not suggesting good participation by that initiative player. So this 10-15 bar, although as a standalone this is come on a C side and the POC has shifted to the top, but with the background which we had of what happened in the B period, this is a very good point to enter long. And the POC of the Nifty futures was at 24305, which could have been our reference for going long here. And our objective on the upside would have been the IBH and then that 24403, which was the POC of previous day, and finally the rollover point of 24460. So you can see how after that IB bar, we remained above the VWAP, which is telling us that the buyers are controlling this, and we went on to make higher highs. Although we got a big seller here, it remained a green bar, and we remained above this IBH level. So it was telling us that the range extension setup of market profile is very much in play, and we were looking for the 2IB target, which was at 24496, and 24460 was definitely one of our targets. So you can see how we hit the 24460, the rollover point, and it came via a green bar. And the POC had shifted higher, so this 24405 would have been our new reference, and then we would have remained long with this as our stop loss, trailing stop loss, and we would have looked for the upside objectives. So as long as this is holding, we would have continued to hold some part of our long position. So this IB bar coming in again at 1106 was confirming that the dips are getting bought, and this POC of this IB bar was holding. It was getting buyers who were coming back in. So we went on to give another IB. We completed the 2 IB objective here, and then we went on to hit the 24522 VPOC, which I showed you in the market profile chart. Here it is important to note how the order flow is telling us, showing us change. How is it changing? Here you can see zeros on the buy side. You have not one but 4 rows of zeros on the buy side. So it is very clearly telling us that demand is drying up here. Although the POC is much lower here, it is very clearly showing us that the demand is drying up, and it has come at one important objective, 24522, which was a previous VPOC level. Again, the next bar, if you see, we have zeros on the buy side, and this is a very classic RS bar, responsive selling pattern. So when you are getting this, you will definitely come out of longs, and you look at uh, buyers coming in on dips if they are able to hold one of these IB references. So in this case, this 24450 was one important reference for today, because this was the POC of the last IB bar which we had. So with that as our support, we were looking for buyers to come back here, which could give us one more range extension higher in the afternoon. But that never happened, and we remained in a subdued range, although the 24450 level, as you can see, was showing us RBs. It was kind of getting defended. You can see how this swipe in the G period saw zeros coming in there, and this break of that 24450 did immediately show some demand coming in. And here we just made the lows of 24415 and held VWAP. So we have not got any IS bars here. So there is no question of shorting this market, but we were looking for a re-entry into the upside, because on the order flow also on the 30 minutes also we were looking for more upside. It was only when we did not see IB bar coming back here, we can say that the upside is not uh, the upside for the day is over, and now we have got back into the balance mode. So here we remained in the narrow range for most part of the time. You do get an IB here, but you see the volumes, it is just 471 bars, 471 contracts. So we don't want to trade on these kind of IB bars, because when there is no volume, it is not telling us any, it is definitely not showing us any initiative player. So we will avoid these kind of IB bars, or even IS bar for that matter, and just wait for some high volume confirmation. And if you just go through, you can see how this 24492, which was the RS bar, is holding the upside. We saw that on the 30-minute charts also, that RS was at 24500. So when we are not getting buy side signals at that level, we know that the upside is capped at that zone. So here you can see how in the K period is a TPO where we can expect the auction to continue what it had started. But when that signal does not come, you need to be extra alert, and you can wait, you can look for a opposite move. So when in the K period we left this at the start, just at the close of J, we left this RS and the K started to probe lower. We needed to very well be sure that we are not going to get any upside spike today. And once that 24415, which was the low in the dip in the G period, broke with zeros in the order flow. So this 251 IS bar was a very clear sign to go short in Nifty. Although it came late in the day, it came at 250. It was a very neat signal, and our stop loss for the short was this 24450. So when we go short at this level, we are looking for a test of the morning references. And you can see how after we got the IS, and you see the volumes of this IS bar, it is 6,000 contracts. So this is the kind of IS bar we want to see. And a good quality IS bar, what it does, just like how I explained in the RB bar, the POC will get defended. So here the POC was at 24410, and we remained below this POC in the next bars, and we also stayed below the VWAP of the day. So these are all uh, more confirmations that the order flow is very clear and the seller is in control now. Why the seller came back into the picture was because the buyers were missing in the upper zone. So that is what happened, and this was a very good put side trade, put long trade, and we went on to make lows of 24311. So here again, see, even though this was an IS bar, you can see how we have zeros on the sell side. And the next thing is how we held this POC. It was the total opposite of what was happening in this IS bar. This IS bar, the auction remained below the POC all the time. We never went on to tag this POC. But in this IS bar, we could not stay below this POC. In fact, the auction was mostly above this POC. So this was very clearly telling that this sell side is kind of more of profit booking by the shorts who had come in. So although this was our reference, the IBH was our reference, we were not able to stay below this, which was a sign that in case you are short, now you need to tighten up your shorts. So into the close, we went on to just make a probe above the IBH, and we got one more IS into the close. But these are closing volumes. We don't trust the last 2 minute, 2 bars of the 3 minute bars. So we will need to see how we open tomorrow. And for tomorrow, this 24410 would be our first reference, because this is the 3 minute POC on of the IS bar. And then on the downside, the RB which we have of 24310 on from the 30 minutes will be our lower side reference. So this 24305 on the downside will be the support in order flow, and this VWAP and that 24410 ISPOC would be the upside reference. Yes, 30-minute IS bar is definitely important, and that is the reason, because this has come at VWAP. So, and it has also come at the rollover point. So this also definitely will be an important reference for tomorrow and even for the weekly settlement. So we will have to first get above VWAP. The sellers have closed with the advantage in their favor today because we closed below VWAP. And value wise, we have formed overlapping value for the day. So we will have to, the VWAP will again be reference for tomorrow. And the VWAP is around 24390. We will have to check the end of the day chart for this. And we will have these references marked out in the futures report, which is also published on the website on a daily basis. So this is how we are placed in Nifty futures for tomorrow. Let us see how this goes. I just showed you a very quick move, a way of how we can use the order flow to uh, have the bias, and then also when do we have to change the bias. This RB getting negated then will completely put the picture to the downside, because this buying tail of today will also get negated in that regard. So a quick look at the order flow chart of Bank Nifty before we wind up. First, a profile chart. So Bank Nifty, this is that 4-day balance of last week, and you can see this value area high of 389 is where we took support in the morning. I'll show you the order flow chart, and we can see buyers coming in at this level in the morning. And when we have similar lows in the initial balance, that is showing us that exhaustion is coming in this direction. And that is why we went on to make this probe higher. Bank Nifty is the weaker of the two. You can see we have these 4 red lines marked. These are all KRLs, the anchored VWAP from important references. Right from the starting of 4th of July, where we made that new all-time highs, we have made we have left two more swing highs after that, and we have a failed auction from 23rd of July at 52666. So these anchored VWAPs will serve as important supply points for Bank Nifty this weekly settlement. Although we have got about this first anchored VWAP and closed above it, this will need to show us change of polarity tomorrow, and then we will need to take off this anchored VWAP and also these higher two on the upside for Bank Nifty to become completely bullish. So this is the 30-minute order flow chart of today. You can see how in the A period we had this big buyer right at that 5400, which was that value area high of the 4-day composite. So this is how we look at order flow confirming the market profile reference. And then unless we would have got IS at this reference, we would not have traded for a 80% rule in that composite. And when in the C period we got above VWAP, there was no looking back. We went on to make higher highs. We got this 4,600 buyer in the D period, and we went on to tag that 5960 level, which was one important supply point. So here you can see how we stopped getting the IB bars and we got to RS bars at the highs. So that is why Bank Nifty was not able to continue any more higher, and then it went on to test VWAP into the close. So the VWAP, we have formed an RB, and this reference of 5652 is an important one. So that is where we will need to look out for the buyers to hold and then take off this POC and this RS of today on the upside. So 3-minute order flow, we can see how at the open that level of 5398 was 389 was getting defended, and then once we got that IB bar and got above VWAP, there was no looking back in the Bank Nifty futures. So order flow is what which gives us that confirmation. You can see 5389 was our reference, and we have got RB bars there, responsive buying bars, and you got zeros on the sell side in this 10 PM bar. So once we have got back above VWAP in this 10-12 bar, you know that the auction is now controlled by the buyers. We remained above VWAP and we went on to live good green bars on the upside and continued higher, respecting the lower VPOCs, important POCs of IB bars which we were holding. So as long as these POCs are held, we can look for uh, upside to continue. In fact, when this 4000 buyer came, we had zeros in the order flow chart at this 5824 level, and this was also an extension handle. So this is where we would have looked for the auction to hold. So this is how we look at the bank nifty, and you can see how we left this rs and is on the 3 minute. It was very clear that come out of longs, and then when we broke that 824, so bank nifty gave a clear indication that now the up move is done and it is back to balance mode. So this rs plus is, whenever you see on the order flow 3 minutes, is telling you to come out of your long trades. So that is how we look at the order flow and the market profile, and accordingly look at some good trading opportunities and go for them via the long options. So that's what we do at the VMR also. In case any of you is interested in getting this live hand holding in market hours and with free access to these order flow charts, do consider joining the VTrender mentoring room, where all of us trade together, discuss together, and we also have live audio sessions every day after the initial balance is over to discuss what has happened and what can be the probable setup for the day. So, in for any more queries about today's or any other uh, concept which we have discussed, you can DM me on X. My my X ID is given at Uttam Goel. I'll be happy to answer those queries. And that's it from my side for today, guys. And hopefully, it was informative and it helps you in the trade going forward this week. And we'll come back with more in the coming week also. Thank you for joining in. Signing off for now.